Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL Investigates senior producer Randall Kerr about coastal safety, we're going to talk about our coastline of more than 300 miles. North Carolina has its hands full when it comes to dealing with water emergencies. Only 17, that's right, 17 of our state's beaches have lifeguards. So our WRAL Investigates team reached out to agencies who employ emergency responders up and down the coast to see if they have enough people to handle the summer crowds. Randall, welcome to the program.
Hey, Amanda, thanks.
So our beaches have a whole lot of visitors, and I think 12 million I read in your reporting. It's hard to believe we just have 17 beaches with lifeguards. Why is that?
Well, a lot of it's just funding. It's always been that way. And granted, some of those beaches that have lifeguards are the bigger tourist spots. I mean, it's, your Wrightsvilles and some of those and some of the national seashores. But yeah, 17 on a 300-mile long coastline certainly does not seem like a lot.
Absolutely. And if you think about, if you have young children, for example, you probably want to go to one of those 17 beaches because you want to make sure there is a lifeguard.
Yeah, absolutely. And we owned a house on Holden Beach for a while. They don't have lifeguards there. So yeah, you're always on your toes. It's certainly peace of mind if there's a lifeguard there. And we found there are some communities that, while they don't have lifeguards sitting in chairs, they try to find ways to supplement that.
Gotcha.
Whether it's, part-time beach patrol folks. But then, we also found there were towns where they have beach patrol, but they're not really water rescue patrol. They're almost more like code enforcement, but they can contact people if there's trouble.
If there's an emergency. So in general, fire stations are the ones who mostly respond to these water emergencies. They also have EMTs on staff, paramedics. So if there's a drowning, they're the ones that are likely going to be called out. And you discovered in your research that these agencies are having a really hard time filling vacancies. What did you learn? Yeah,
well, and to put it all into context, the reason we started looking at this issue is we've done countless stories here, Wake County EMS, Durham EMS. They can't find enough people to fill their ambulances. To get out and get, drive times down and pickup times. So we figured it's summertime, a lot of people head to the coast. Let's look at the coastal counties to see how they're doing. And what we found is, a lot of the small police or fire departments along the coast, they're volunteer. They're not paid by the town. Some are, some aren't. We went to Sunset Beach. It's a town-funded police fire department. They have 21 full-time staffers. They had 3 vacancies, but they were covering those shifts in creative ways, whether it's overtime, part-time people from other departments. But we found that a lot of the agencies who would be first responders on the coast closest to the beach, they are fully staffed. But they need the support from county EMS because they are the ones that have the ambulances. They're the ones that would do emergency transport. We found some of those agencies are having the same issues that we're seeing here in the Triangle. Dare County, which is in Hyde County, which cover a good portion of the Outer Banks, they have a lot of vacancies. And granted, they also cover inland. It's not just a coastal resource, but it is something, if you're on Ocracoke, which is hard to get to in the first place, Hyde County provides the emergency support to the Ocracoke Fire Department.
Right. And when you need it, you need it. Well, we're going to talk more about this after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So I know you did spend some time in Sunset Beach for your report. They don't have lifeguards, but they do have an extra layer of safety in the summer. They have some off-duty first responders. You alluded to that in the first half. Mm-hmm. Tell me who they are and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned, this was it's a smaller department. They do have vacancies, so 3 out of 21. They're 1/7. They're short as far as their staffing. So what they've been doing is they hire a beach patrol, and they bring in off-duty guys, whether it's county EMS, even from other states. They bring in these people to run beach patrol. So they run 2 4-wheelers nonstop up and down the beach. looking for people in trouble. They normally, because the pier is the big hot spot in Sunset Beach and it's the most crowded, they usually keep one person right in the vicinity of the pier. And just in the little time we were out there talking to the beach patrol and the fire chief, they had to go in the water twice. And not because people were in distress, but they were too close to the pier where there's fishing going on, there are barnacles, and you get knocked down under a pier, you could have some serious injuries. And we also we stumbled upon a guy when we were out there who the day before was out in the water playing with his friends, was running back up to their towel location, and he just stepped in a low spot in the sand and tore his Achilles. And the beach patrol was right there, got him out, got him his medical care. So it shows that, that extra layer in the hour and a half that we were on the coast with them, we saw 3 examples where it really made a difference. And that's not a layer of protection that a lot of small beach towns without lifeguards are using.
Yeah, it's interesting because I grew up in the Northeast and we went to the Jersey Shore and they charge you to go to the beach. You get a beach pass and you can do a day, a week, a weekend. And as a result, they all have lifeguards. I can't remember the distance between them, but you can see the next stand. And if there's an emergency, they run to cover the next stand so that more emergency responders can jump into the water. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know that that's something that's ever been considered by North Carolina, having basically a beach tax. So for your report, you reached out to more than 40 emergency agencies. I mean, what was the overall picture? You kind of mentioned it before, but smaller towns doing okay, but then there were also some counties that were not doing well.
Yeah, I think the big picture is at the water level, getting people out of the water that are in distress. We could certainly make improvements if you're just looking at the 17 towns that have lifeguards. In a drowning situation, the most important thing is get the person out of the water as fast as you can. And in the towns with lifeguards, the chances of that happening are much better than in the towns without it. Sunset Beach says, they talk about hiring lifeguards every year. It just hasn't happened, so they went to the beach patrol as an alternative. But it's, these towns, they have 7 months to make their money. And having lifeguards you think would bring more people in, but at the same time, when you only have 7 months to make your money and really the rest of the other 5 months, it's pretty slow traffic. They're not towns that have huge budgets.
Absolutely.
So you got to prioritize where you want to spend that.
Yeah, and the Jersey Shore, to go back to that example, they make their money in 3 months. Their money is Memorial Day to Labor Day because of the temperatures not being as warm as here in North Carolina. So in light of what you've learned, again, I remember when I would take my kids to the beach when they were little, I'd be like, you're swimming in front of the lifeguard stand. That's where I want you to swim. What kind of advice would you give to beachgoers, especially families? I know some of it has to do with what are the conditions on that day.
Yeah, the one thing the fire chief told us is, whether you think you're a good swimmer or not, and you've done stories on rip currents and rip current safety.
Sure.
Even if you're a great swimmer, you could still have trouble in a rip current.
Absolutely.
And the bottom line is, these departments, whether they're fully staffed or not, they're out there to protect as many people as possible. And the only thing that you can do to help them is just to follow the rules.
Right.
And the bottom line is, if there's a red flag swim day, don't go in the water.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And look, the way that our coast is set up, some of the southern beaches, the Sunset, Ocean Isle, Holden Beach, even up to the Wrightsville area, for the most part, they're, a lot of those are southern-facing beaches. They don't have the rip current problems that others have. If you get out, to the Emerald Isles up through the Outer Banks, it's a really big issue, and you need to be paying attention to what the conditions are.
Well, this is all really good information, especially as we head into the high beach-going month of July. So, Randall, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Please take a minute and give us a 5-star rating in Apple Podcasts. Your rating and review will help other listeners find the show. We really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening.